draft physics video. Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, I guess I'll do some preliminary talking about it. So I've been watching some of this electric universe stuff, and the Wallace Thornhill guy, really nice presenter of, anything, you know, but it's just such rubbish, and it's a religion, it turns out. It's really, this doesn't have anything to do with science, or the truth. It has to do with some notion that if people believe they're, electrically connected to each other and electrically connected to the universe, and that we're somehow some kind of purposeful creation in the universe, that it's really all about, doing this special thing that we're doing. And it's just a religion, really. The incentive, the motivation seems obviously driven by some notion that the materialism of science is toxic to the human spirit. And, so we can't believe in that for that reason. And that's the wrong reason to recognize that. I mean, it's almost the other way around. It's the conventional science has got way too much woo in it. It's got way too much of this hope of a singularity, of this idea of we're going somewhere or getting somewhere kind of bullshit. So anyway, I'll play some of this ending anyway, because that's where the punchline of, oh yeah, this is all about God, really, or whatever, mumbo jumbo, or whatever we're going to call God. It has nothing to do with the truth. It just has to do with humans needing a spiritual fable to live by. Ugh, this really, yuck. I thought it was going to be stupid. I just didn't think it was going to be that stupid. Eek. Anyway. So he's talking about Aboriginal art now, and how the Aboriginals knew what was going on, and they knew the plants were electrical because the people's nose is like a plasma column, and yeah, sure they did.
I mean, they are haunting, and I think they probably evoke some kind of a
I guess I found a better volume version, so I'll cut it down a little bit. Haunting, he calls this. It looks like Raggedy Ann or something. Doesn't, you could make it into haunting, like Chucky or something, but it doesn't haunt me in some sort of, oh, I feel so connected to that girly, weird image.
Conscious connection. But how much more would they mean if people really understood their origin?
The origin is that they really knew what the universe was, the old original peoples, because they saw Pluto was right next to us, and they saw the lightning bolt hit it, and Pluto flew away. Blah, 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 blah. They really lived back then, while they were, wiping their ass with leaves.
We need to give more credit to the indigenous people.
Yeah, why? Why do I have to do that? Really, why? Why do people romanticize the past? I mean, they do this with the American Indians, like they all just stood around looking stoic. No, they killed each other. They raped the women. They bought and sold each other. They killed each other. They had all kinds of evil hierarchies and all kinds of chauvinism and all kinds of nastiness. Yuck. Nothing to learn but how not to be civilized from the uncivilized.
Now, Evan Camp said one of the unique aspects of the electric universe theory is that it's good storytelling. It answers all three questions.
Okay, but see, that's really not true. It answers, but the answers are silly. So what's the point? They're not the right answer. They're not consistent with evidence.
What if? What if the sky was different in the past?
That's not even an interesting question, to tell you the truth, but, well, you mean what? What if it's purple? What does that even mean? I guess he means if all the stars were de-electrified or something.
What if Saturn was worshipped as the sun? What if there were electrical discharges between planets? Let's catch up here.
And those are supposed to be those are interesting what ifs to people, which I can't see how, even if you were right, even if there were lightning bolts flying around in between the planets, how the hell that would make my life any different? What the hell would that do in terms of making my life more meaningful?
What if there were electric discharges between planets? Today we have meteorites from Mars. What if Lichtenberg figures explain the scars on Mars and Earth?
So he's implying that all these impact craters are somehow electrical discharges, or to and from points, and in some subtle ways there's a similarity in the sense that the one is depositing or stealing molecules, like electricity, and the other one, well, they both can be considered, they create a lot of heat. So you could say it plasmizes the surface, but I don't know. No, it's just silly.
Students pictures of cratering on different bodies and ask students to explain them from 2 points of view. The standard model needs different explanations for each. Oops, sorry.
See, they think anything that looks like something means it is something. So they even have like galactic pictures of of clusters of galaxies and stars and all that stuff, and they see patterns in it that look like electricity, and so they say it's a lightning bolt. Even though it's a time-lapse photograph and it's happening over millions of years, and electricity by their own statements is supposed to be instantaneous, which is so demonstrably not a possibility. I mean, that one's been so proven. I mean, I don't even know how they can even say that with a straight face. I mean, it's one thing to speculate about gravity, because it's a little hard to prove the speed of gravity. The real giveaway is the fact that, Newton's equations work better if you include it. So,
That was unexpected.
Well, you should be expecting all that, because he thinks, we have all this instantaneous knowledge of what's happening to every other thing in the universe and blah, 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 so he should have expected it.
The electric universe, on the other hand, has a single explanation for them all. Then there is the story of the dissidents.
And the single explanation is what? The magic power. This instantaneous transmission of information or something. I don't know.
If only. Birkeland hadn't been ignored. Hans Alfvén had been listened to. Halton Arp's research hadn't been dismissed. A Pixar rule for storytelling, number 16. What are the stakes?
I don't know all of those people, but the ARP guy is interesting, but his research wasn't dismissed. It just wasn't very interesting.
Give us reasons to support the character. What happens if they don't succeed? Stack the odds against them. What of the future if this goes on? We continue wasting money and careers looking for things that don't exist.
Well, I agree with you there. They're on the wrong track, but I don't want them looking for lightning bolts either, frankly.
We cripple students by not training them to think.
Well, frankly, it's in kind of a no-brainer. The how to think thing they should be able to figure out on their own. I mean, what we should be teaching them is what is the evidence. That's what teaching really should be. It's just pointing out the definitions. This equals that. This plus this equals that. That kind of stuff.
We may have no future on this planet.
Yeah, well, you have no future on this planet, no matter what, in the absolute sense. Yes, the planet has no future, but our demise can't be too soon, really, because we haven't demonstrated anything of merit. And this whole idea that you're going to find your purpose in this babble about lightning bolts is, it's like some kid, you know, I don't know, drawing lightning bolts on his arm and thinking he's a superhero. It's trivial and silly.
As Evan Camp says,
Evan Camp is supposed to be, I guess it's the god of their gods, the god of their god theory or something.
the power of eliciting engagement is to get people to come to their own conclusions.
Really, that's just silly too. I mean, this whole idea of this, let's just put all the wrong answers in a pile and just roll around in the wrong answers and not care about figuring out which ones are the right answers. So all the answers are the same or some other kind of crap. It's just so useless. Credibility should be earned, I'll say that much. But beyond that, it's a real contest, and the truth is at stake, and this is no way to run a trial. I mean, coming to your own conclusions when your conclusions aren't rational doesn't mean anything. I mean, as a good. It's a bad, not a good.
Thinking is going to be the future of education.
Well, that is just so vacuous. You ought to argue about something like logical obedience to logic, or some sort of respect for the facts. But thinking what? About Bugs Bunny?
So, our electric universe future. Mahatma Gandhi said, there is a force in the universe which, if we permit it, will flow through us.
He didn't educate his own kids. So not much of a man there. After he went to law school and had a whole life, he's perfectly happy to sentence his kids to be just pawns in the game.
And produce miraculous results. The electric universe isn't it?
Yes, right. Miraculous how? I mean, Gandhi's no example of miraculous results, right? And how do you get to miraculous? By having everybody weaving mittens, which was his big plan.
Inspiring story that motivates students both conceptually and artistically, and that
whatever that means too, conceptually and artistically. Are we really science for artists? I mean, poo.
Is what's needed for left and right brain hemisphere development.
So he had a whole spiel about that in the beginning. I mean, this is physics, and he's sitting there doing that kind of crap. Electrical universe, and they're just pretending that now our brains were deliberately split in half because they have specific functions, and they're blah 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 blah. And look, the same split brain exists in the damn food people are eating. They don't have any respect for that brain. Goes way back. It's not a defining feature. Sorry. It just has to do with what our primary function is, which is to create a problem and then to create a solution. That's what we do. We identify a problem, create a solution. And most of the identified problems are ones based on our own dissatisfaction, our own drives and desires. The problem is she doesn't like me. The solution is I have to make her like me. That kind of bullshit.
Education, classical science and the arts, left and right hemispheres. Many principles of the electric universe were foreseen by scholars in the past, Newton, Faraday, etc. A release from existential fear, Velikovsky's The Bonds of the Past.
That's all quite ambiguous, but whatever. Newton's support of this nonsense, I don't think so.
A documentary. There is a collective inability to face the truth that prehistoric mankind faced doomsday. For millennia, science has preached stability and order, but as amnesiac...
Well, again, I don't know how we have obtained any of that, or there's any evidence of that. So again, this false dichotomy, this made-up fable that the ancients were the real, they were fighting Thor, and somehow, I don't even know what the argument would be, that somehow anybody's preaching complacency. That doesn't seem true, or whatever. A lot of people just preaching love, and that's all this sort of sounds like. Everything would be okay if we believe in electricity.
We have a compulsion to instinctively repeat the catastrophes of the past, destroying each other and the earth from the sky with a...
Yeah, well, none of that's true either. It's just that we don't have any instinctive compulsion. It's, unfortunately, we just have a competitive compulsion, and that's part of that left-right brain problem. And until you get rid of that, until there's haves and have-nots, and I don't think you're going to fix that, you're going to have conflict.
Apocalyptic weapons, like the planetary gods of old. This was one of Velikovsky's greatest fears.
Yeah, well, he's afraid of nothing. But anyway, I mean, I'll just say, there's absolutely no logical reason for anyone to fear the end of the human race. It's going to happen anyway, and if you think the human beings, the 7 billion of them, are going to evolve into something graceful and beautiful before that end, I think you're silly.
But we have, on the other hand, the possibility of an unparalleled renaissance.
Yes, we always have the possibility of the phantasmagorical superhero shows up and saves the day. I mean, I don't know what that even means. The possibility of an unparalleled renaissance. We have no evidence of that even being in the mix. And to think that religion is somehow going to do it, the god of the lightning bolt, we're all going to pray to lightning, and that somehow is going to make human beings better human beings, is just so delusional. I mean, you're just asking for disappointment there. I mean, hoping for Mighty Mouse to show up would make a lot more sense than to think, reverence for the lightning bolt will save civilization. Jesus.
With the electric universe, bringing everything together seamlessly, understanding ourselves and our past can hit...
Yes, understanding it in what context. So again, he just leaves that so vague. Understanding ourselves and our past. And in the earlier part where he was talking about the brains and stuff, he just did this overt implication that... There's even a statement somewhere where he says, how could it possibly have been randomness, that creates life? A random event, random chemical interaction. So of course he's implying the existence of a creative force of some kind. In the image of what? An Australian. He does seem to have a huge Aboriginal bias for the Aboriginal Australians.
Heal the wounds and provide a more universal sense of connection and purpose.
Yeah, it's a more universal sense of connection and purpose through lightning. Yeah, so sorry, it's just the pain of that kind of drool being shoved up my ass. Just,
Understand the electric force of nature.
The electric force of nature. So again, it just doesn't, what does that even mean?
Power like the sun and gravity. Quantum interactions. All three rely on understanding matter interactions via the instantaneous electric force.
The instantaneous electric force. See, I mean, how do you go anywhere with that statement? I mean, there's absolutely nothing in any of the evidence of anything known to be electrical that would appear instantaneous. I mean, the only place you can find anything that even smells of it is really deep inside of atoms. I mean, really, not electrons. Electrons. See, that's why it's electricity, is because it's electronic. It's electrons. Big things, not little things.
Understanding living organisms, the mind-body connection and beyond.
Understanding living organisms and the mind-body connection and beyond. So again, that's physics. It just doesn't, smearing this crap, this trivial philosophy onto an argument about physics is, I don't know why this isn't a catastrophic, like a complete non-starter for these people. I mean, why would anybody who has a scientific mind have any stomach for that kind of rhetoric being smeared on physics? Eek.
Also,
I mean, it's just creationism. They're trying to steal science and turn it into a religion. Also, understanding the degrees of, let me say it.
understanding the dangers of genetically modified organisms and manufactured food.
So more of the, hysterical truther kind of science. There's no real science backing up any hysteria about these things, but they just throw it out there. And like the idea that nature provides is really not the truth. There's very few organisms that have the benefit of a food supply that in some way doesn't want to moderate or control their taking. And, and who takes, what insects take. And there's a constant battle between our food supply trying to poison us and because it would prefer somebody else was eating it, somebody who's not depositing the seeds in a toilet. So, to pretend that all these things are perfect for us is just a lie. And to think that with all our brains we're not able to create synthetic replacements for food that may be much more suited to our biological needs is also delusional. Now, the fact that capitalists aren't necessarily going to do that for you, that may be true.
There is no thought given to the effects, the unintended consequences of fiddling with these things when our basic knowledge is so lacking.
Well, our basic knowledge is pretty extensive to be able to figure out how to splice genes. So, frankly, our basic knowledge is pretty damn good. So that's kind of bullshit. And, to say you can take all the risk out of anything is silly. But this prohibition, this automatic prohibition, this fact nobody can touch this perfect nature thing is just, it's profoundly stupid, and it will cause more disease and harm to humans than you will prevent by a long way. The stuff you naysayers and pennies have prevented taking place would save us from poisoning the planet or having to use as much fertilizer, all that crap. If you were in charge, the yield from corn and wheat crops wouldn't be enough now to feed the planet.
And the idea,
I mean, there's no real practical difference between genetically modifying the hard way by, picking out the most mutated wheat seeds, and then growing just them, and then the thing people do with dogs. You see the dogs they make. Some of the dogs they make aren't very healthy, and you can do the same thing with food crops, the old-fashioned way. So this notion that you're not going to create monstrosities the old-fashioned way, it's much safer, is bullshit.
Electric universe is to live in tune with the earth and each other.
Right, so whatever that could possibly mean. Live in tune with the earth and each other. The earth is a meat grinder of organisms just being butchered every day in horrific numbers. Mostly children, just ripped to pieces every day. little children as they go out to play and they get slaughtered brutally every day. That's the natural way. So you'd like it the natural way. You'd like your wife to have 15 kids, and you'd like to watch 8 or 9 of them die right before your eyes, because that's part of harmony and fun. Because that's our natural biology. Newsflash. That's what the Aboriginals were doing. They watched their children die a lot. That's harmony and fun. No, thank you. No, I'm going to protest you shoving me on that stupid ride.
Resonant connection. On the most general level, the electric universe is a new paradigm of universal resonant connection.
So just words that can't mean much, right? Universal resonant connection. You know, and resonance just really has to do with maximizing probably some perfect way to say it, you know, but synchronizing motion to cause maximum impact. Punching the bag at the right speed, that kind of thing. You know, if you punch before the bag comes back, like the bag swings this way and you're punching it. If you punch when there's no bag, it's not very effective. So you want to punch it just when the bag stops, because then you're not hitting a moving target. You're not wasting any of the energy. That's sort of resonance. Good timing is resonance.
The arbitrary inertial frames of reference of physics are not equivalent when everything is connected in real time.
So everything is connected in real time, which means instantaneously. And he thinks that's a plausible, consistent with some sort of evidence somewhere theory. And I'd say there's just absolutely nothing indicating any of that shit.
How and where you are makes a difference to your energy state. For example, the GPS.
So somehow, if you're rotating on the wrong side of the planet, oh yeah, you're fucked. I don't think it really. It certainly could matter in some circumstantially silly way, but it doesn't matter in any substantive way.
GPS system is supposed to prove relativity theory. It doesn't. The atoms.
It doesn't. Well, I'll agree that you got that one right, but no. How does your electricity explain it?
In orbiting clocks have a different energy from identical clocks on Earth.
Yeah, different energy isn't saying much. See, I think you have to explain a little deeper how this difference in energy, okay, has the consequence of creating a difference in cycles and in function. Yeah, that would be the key word, in function. So it's not just about, well, it really is just about it. It's just about atomic clocks. I mean, they already know that sundials aren't going to work in some circumstances, and they know hourglasses aren't going to work in out of gravity. So lots of clocks break for lots of reasons. And the one that's important to this whole thing is the breaking of atomic-style clocks. Clocks that depend on chemistry that takes a certain amount of time to be performed.
So engineers simply count a different number of ticks to compensate. Time is universal, unchanging and unchangeable. Clocks are not.
I would agree that time is just a function, and it is tied explicitly and completely to the fact that there are things that move at constant rates, like light, which I think they believe light travels at a speed, but they believe it travels in an ether. So somehow gravity isn't ether, but it's instantaneous, and electricity isn't ether, it's instantaneous, but light is ether, and it's not instantaneous. I think that's how they look at it. They definitely believe in the ether too, by the way, so she's quite primitive.
Think of the relationships between all things connected by the universal electric force and consider.
think about the relationship of all things connected by the electrical force. How do I possibly even do that? How do I possibly think about being connected to all things? How do I do that? Why, how can you say something like that? I mean, think about something totally insane. I mean, nobody could do that.
That the electric force must act instantly, otherwise no information transfer is possible.
Okay, now does that make any sense? Information transfer is possible between resonant tuned systems. So that's the next sentence. But he just said it's not possible to transfer information unless I transfer it instantaneously. Why do I have to transfer it instantaneously? Why is that necessary? I mean, that just doesn't make any sense at all.
Between resonant tuned systems. Spacecraft using slow speed of light transmissions require constant retuning of receivers on Earth.
Slow speed of light. Okay, so he does think light is slow. I think that's what he said. Let's go back a little.
Possible between resonant tuned systems. Spacecraft using slow speed of light transmissions require constant retuning of receivers on Earth to compensate for their motion.
To compensate for their motion. Well, that would be the shift in frequency, you might argue. There might be some red shift, but so he says it as if it's true, that somehow if the spacecraft is sending a signal at 976 megahertz or something, that somehow when it's going this way around the moon, they have to turn the frequency, change it, and then when it's coming this way, they have to change it. And I don't think anything's moving that fast. So I think that would only be true if you can get things up to very fast speeds.
Obviously, living systems could not function if moving parts of the body lost contact with the brain.
Well, gee, that just makes so much sense, right? I mean, losing contact is the same as not having instantaneous, right? So if you don't have instantaneous, you can't have any contact at any speed. Does that make any sense? No. And clearly, I mean, these are things you just can't. Even being alive, I sort of understand that my reflexes seem incredibly slow. So obviously, even the mental process I'm doing in my brain is not happening instantaneously. It does take some time for your brain to compose shit and do shit, or else I'd be able to talk much faster and think much faster.
Acknowledging this simple
Well, it wouldn't be much faster. It would be, I would be, instantaneous is really quite fast. Maybe we could agree on that instantaneous is like ludicrous speed. I mean, it's really, really fast instantaneous. A lot of stuff can happen in an instantaneous moment.
fact will explain quantum weirdness and open up science, particularly biology, to amazing possibilities that are presently forbidden.
Alright, amazing possibilities. So particularly biology, to amazing possibilities. So the very thing he's against, which is this playing around with biology, he's for as long as you're doing it electrically. So as long as you're doing Frankenstein experiments with lots of electrical stuff and all over the place, big electrical things, it's okay. That wasn't even in one of the Frankenstein movies, actually, because, one Dr. Frankenstein was doing the electrical, reanimation of life, and the other guy was doing the cold, quiet, chemical reanimation. And he said his don't go wacky. And he sort of was right. So electrical looks a little more dangerous from the Frankenstein perspective. Got you on that one, I think. By Frankenstein law. I don't think you want to do electrical biology.
And understanding gravity and magnetism as balancing electric forces will change forever our view of the heavens.
Change forever our view of the heavens. So again, the heavens are not the slow-moving blah, blah, blah. No, they're full of electrical bang, wow. Bang, wow, bang, wow. And that means so much to us because it really changes my whole perspective if it only took 7 billion years instead of 12 billion years. I mean, that just changes everything. change anything. Yeah.
and the earth under our feet.
Yes, well, the special earth under our feet is all doing all kinds of electrical calculating and figuring, and it's on our side, and it's hoping and it's really wishing, and it's really, the earth is on our side. Trust it.
As the morphic resonance experiments of the biologist Rupert Sheldrake have shown.
Oh, please. As the morphic resonance experiment. So I have to go look that crap up. But yes, Sheldrake just sounds like butthole to me.
And the things that are learnt by one organism are immediately available to others like them.
Okay, so look, what is that? The things learned by one organism are immediately accessible to all the rest of the organisms. What does that, how can that make any sense? Shit. I mean, what? Alright, then we can really send all the American Indians to hell because not having knowledge of Jesus was their fault. Jesus.
Where on earth the universe learns.
The universe learns. So again, more bullshit. We're the universe's brain. When 99.99% of human beings are just looking to fill their bellies and to fill a vagina.
Resonance between molecular tuning forks allows instant information transfer.
Okay, resonance between molecular tuning forks allows instant information transfer. Of what kind of information, and what evidence do you have for any of this instantaneous transfer of knowledge or information? I mean, I guess he's an X-Man or something, you know, in reality. And, you know, he does all this super ESP kinetical thing or something.
The mind-body connection and...
the mind-body connection and beyond. The mind-body connection and beyond. I mean, it's a real marching cry for honest physics or well-evidenced science. Do it for the mind-body connection and the beyondness. Forget it.
Beyond. Life is structured water.
Life is structured water. So here we go again. No, it's water with impurities in it. Yeah, it's not structured water. It's dirty water.
Said to me by Gerald Pollack.
Who cares?
His experiments show the structure of electrically polarized water molecules gives rise to water's amazing properties.
All elements are electrical in terms of the stuff holding them together. It's magnetic, really, but you know, whatever. It's polarized, and so every single compound is held together by those forces. So it's not, water isn't special. Fuck.
It allows information to be stored and transferred within a living cell.
Okay, so there you go. So now we have another statement being made that somehow the fluid in the cell, the water, is what's storing and transferring information. So we don't really need the neurons. It's kind of redundant because we have all the water we need in all the other cells to do all the storage and thinking. Why bother with a brain? Silly redundancy.
The memory mechanism of homeopathy.
Ah, well, now that makes any sense. The memory mechanism of homeopathy. I mean, you know, voodoo. He might as well have just said voodoo, right? I mean, homeopathic remedies, come on. Voodoo. The memory mechanism of voodoo. And people are falling for this. This they think is good alt science.
It suggests that the electrically polarizable ether particles may also participate in information.
Oh, there, we have to do that again. The electrical polarized ether particles. So they're not even they're not just ether. They're polarized ether.
Of homeopathy. It suggests that the
electrically polarized ether particles. Okay, so electrically polarized ether particles. So instead of quanta, like I'm doing, that's red and blue, he's saying the ether is polarized. The ether particles. So that's even weirder, right? Ether that's particles. I mean, aren't the ether theory people against the idea of particles? Like the photons aren't particles, but now they're saying the ether's made of particles. You know, I mean, isn't that just isn't that just playing games with words here? Now we don't. I mean, ether isn't the opposite of particle. Now ether is particles. It suggests that the electrically polarized ether particles. That's what it says. It suggests that the electrically polarized ether particles. Now isn't how can you do that? We're really never going to figure out what these words are supposed to mean, right? May also, so let's finish.
Electrically polarizable ether particles may also participate in information storage as well as transmission.
So he's now saying the ether is now holding the particles in collections or something to be able to store something called information. So they have to be stored in some sort of arrangement somehow in this ether that's supposed to be just a coaxial cable or some kind of transmission medium that waves, and now we store waves in the ether. I don't know where he gets evidence for that.
The electric universe resonant electrical model of matter.
The electric universe resonant electrical model of matter. So that's again saying absolutely nothing. You know, I mean, it really says nothing.
And the all-pervasive neutrino ether.
Okay, so now it's a neutrino ether. So they're saying that the neutrinos, which technically, in my opinion, are antiparticles, which are is the absence of something from a system, like an ion. It's a missing charge. But anyway, so now these are the ether particles, and they are not. The ether isn't a benign system of symmetry. No, it's collected knowledge, and that collected knowledge is somehow doing something to, I imagine, regulating good energy and bad energy, maybe. Good thinking and bad thinking. It's the gateway ether.
Suggests that resonance and structure within structure and store.
So, okay, structure within structure, which is another way of saying, yes, let's do this silly fractal thing. So the atom is doing some sort of proton-electron thing, and inside the electron there's a little proton electrical thing, and then inside that proton of the electron there's another little proton electron swirly bit. I mean, you know. Shit gods all the way down.
Unlimited information and transfer it instantly.
Yes, unlimited information. Can store unlimited information and transfer it instantly. What the fuck would be the information? What kind of salve to put on your hemorrhoids? I mean, what's the information the universe has got stored somewhere? The cure for AIDS? I mean, what's caught out there in the ether, and how do I cast my line into the ether and hook some of that free instantaneous knowledge? I mean, you know, I'd like to be able to play the violin proficiently. Can I just throw my hook out there and hook that bit of information and have it instantly, like in the Matrix? I can know karate in 10 seconds. Is that how it works? I don't think there's any chance. There's no. It's like having 500 Yahtzee dice and having them all on number 6 and stacked all on top of each other. I think that's the odds of this babble having anything to do with the truth.
There is more to life than meets the eye.
No, there's less to it. You're really not getting it. Simpler than we think. We're just dumb little bug bots. And we can sing and dance, and that looks impressive, and we can look stoic. And we can be stylish, And, we can do, interesting little things. But we're bugs. Lots of bugs can do fucking interesting things. Lots of them look a lot more interesting than we do. But there's no bigger plan. We don't have anything to do. but this simple biological function, which sucks.
We have always known that instinctively.
Oh, we have. So we, the people who don't want to hear about this materialistic, deterministic, mechanical universe that's just grinding us up in little clock wheels. You know, we're just incidental little pieces of grease on the wheels, and we just get smushed and squished and smushed and squished, and we're totally irrelevant. I mean, we're not even grease. We're just dust. We're just crud. We have no significance whatsoever to the function of the machine. It's just a machine, and we're just machines in this machine universe. And the whole thing is fucking stupid.
The universe suggests that the information needed for life, forget the gene, that's just a...
Okay, the information needed for life. So here we go again. Forget the genes. Forget that whole chromosome evolving thing. That doesn't have anything to do with it. The information for life is all over the universe, and it just says, yes, life, 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 lifety, life, 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 life. Even though we have absolutely no evidence that this insanely crazy process of a DNA molecule replicating, which requires the incidental functions of a lot of other chemistry around the molecule, hasn't happened anywhere else, and it certainly never happened in any way where those little organisms or little bugs ever tapped into all the information stored in the ether, because none of them got the information on how to blink a light on and off and say hi.
Factory floor is universal, so life can take hold wherever conditions arise.
Well, wherever conditions arise, isn't that's just another, like, oh, that's such a scientific statement, right? So life can take hold wherever conditions arise that allow it. That's, I guess so. Yeah, I guess the conditions that allow it are part of the cause of the effect. So yeah, I guess so. It can happen whenever cause and effect makes it happen. Yeah, that's probably true. Probably.
That allow it. We see evidence for that in the great changes immediately following catastrophic mass extinctions on Earth.
I don't know whether even that, the great changes. So you have something called a mass extinction, and then you are miraculously surprised by the fact that something changes. Massive extinction, change. Oh, another surprise. You think the same theory holds for like massive amounts of snow or massive amounts of earthquakes or massive amounts of forest fires? You think they also cause change? Yeah. Whoa. Yeah, I'll have to think about that. That's a promising theory.
We see it in organisms living in anoxic conditions over volcanic vents on the ocean floor, and a great...
Yeah, I don't even understand how that's evidence for your theory. That's sort of evidence for, yes, we evolved, and we evolved from worms. Eek.
Depths in rocks. Just as gravity cannot be shielded, since all matter participates in force transfer, so it is with this universal information bank.
So the universal information bank. So if there are other organisms in the universe, we should be able to instantaneously communicate with them through the universal information bank. And, we should be able to convert our dollars into their hooples.
There are no islands in space.
There are no islands in space. So now the word island doesn't mean anything anymore. Yeah, that's all connected by Wi-Fi. So yeah, that's the bridge to nowhere. There is no bridges to nowhere because they're all somewhere. Oh, and it's all about this bullshit. This sappy, crappy, stinky baby bullshit. I mean, this is just such girly fucking science. Ugh. Puke.
We are earthlings in the complete resonant connection sense.
We are earthlings in the complete resonant connection sense. So again, somehow resonance, this idea of hitting the punching bag at the right frequency, has something to do with us being connected, because we're all doing some sort of common frequency thing. Even though, generally speaking, we hate each other's fucking guts. Generally speaking. And we will fuck each other's wives, and we will watch others die in poverty, and we will, I mean, you could go on and on about how not very fucking connected we are.
In a meaningful electrical universe. The fact that we exist suggests a purposeful universe.
Okay, the fact that we exist suggests a purposeful universe, and we exist because God wanted it that way. That's the only way it could be purposeful, because we exist as the byproduct of insect evolution, of a bunch of squirmy little bugs in the ocean. We were fish, and before we were fish, we were things even more disgusting. And this guy wants to sit there and turn it into, no, it's what the universe does. It makes these silly, eccentric, psychotic, me first, greedy, selfish, cunty little Weasley bugs. And that's just so fucking wonderful. No, it's fucking goddamn humiliating that you idiots will pervert the truth so badly to try to defend your life, to try to pretend you can't see the bug in you. Ugh.
Our lives have purpose.
Our lives have purpose. Blah, 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 blah. And the purpose is to do what? Live miserably. You know, either be a taker, take too much, and then die, or give too much and die, or yeah, there's no happily ever after here. Purpose? To clean up other people's, stinkies.
We don't manifest as a blank slate.
We don't manifest as a blank slate. So again, he doesn't think we're born with rather deficient cognitive skills.
So children should be observed and supported in their individual passions, not suppressed and moulded to our desires for them.
So you shouldn't desire that your kid not be an asshole. You should just let it turn into one. You shouldn't try to mold it into a civilized, capable and competent instrument in society. You should instead say, go ahead, watch SpongeBob all day and play video games. Let it do what it wants. No, that's not a good idea.
We are born with a purpose, but many need help to discover that purpose.
Well, you just said they could do it all on their own. You said let them open the doors. Let them do whatever they want to do. Let them be free. Don't mold them. Now you're saying, oh no, well, they're not going to discover it on their own, so maybe you have to make them discover it. Oh.
In answering the question, why are we so unhappy, Ian McGilchrist says, true happiness is based on connections with others and a sense of purpose beyond the immediate.
Yes, well, I would argue that happiness is a silly concept because you can't have it for but moments in your life. And if you're arguing that I want to have more comfortable moments than uncomfortable ones, sure. But if you want to argue, if you want to be productive, it's not going to be comfortable.